looks like, and Kathleen and I, either reading or
Yeah.
everything has sort of been manifesting with higher energies and stuff like that. And I told her yesterday that what came to me is what's coming sooner. So last night I go to bed, and I wake up this morning, and I wake up feeling different. And I thought, like the history is not important to me. What happened in history and the world events, they sort of haven't been important to me anyway. I live in spirit, and spirit gives me all the information I need, so I don't worry about history. So anyways, what happens is I start writing, and for some reason Seth comes to me, and I don't know anything about Seth. And I did receive in June, when I was in the hospital with extensive blood clots, a magazine that had Seth on the front of it.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting, because something happened, and the energies are now, and they're going to take you deeper and deeper. I can see, I can hear, and this is what I'm writing this morning. First about how I felt. I thought, well, maybe I had a walk-in at first. And I'm like, and I was like, I'm hearing myself as I'm in class. Well, I was going to ask Dick, can you have a walk-in and then have another walk-in because you want a deal?
Walk-in on your walk-in? Yeah. I don't know.
So, anyways, what happens is I write those things down. The energies are coming. They're new, and things are going to change, right?
Yes.
So I remember my husband sending me a text last night saying, do you have email access? Because he's going to show me a picture of some reconstructive work he's thinking of doing.
Right.
I thought I'd better get onto my email because I'm not going to get it here. So I don't have time because I'm running late. I go onto my email. He didn't send me an email, so he must have saying, if you do have it, I will send you one, is what he meant in his text, right? So there's no email from him. And my brother never sends me an email, so I open my brother's email. And my brother, you got to understand, my family history is, I grew up with racing automobiles. My brother raced go-karts and automobiles in Watkins Glen in New York. It was like his little crib. Watkins. Okay. Watkins Glen is like his little crib. I mean, that's, he grew up at Watkins Glen racing.
Right.
He coaches, bush cars.
Yeah.
Bush cars.
Right.
So my brother raced it, and a couple weeks ago, my brother is very analytical. He doesn't have crashes. He doesn't have engine failure. So he's just been very blessed with his racing and safe. Doesn't he have? And he said he did something stupid, and he actually hit the wall and hit all three things. So I had called to wish him good luck, saying, "Oh, good luck on your race tomorrow." And this was in practice.
Yeah.
This happened. And I find myself like getting choked up and saying, "Gary, I'm so sorry that you hit your car. I know how much he works on it,
Yeah.
and all the time that him and his partner put into it." So I'm actually, crying over my brother, and I'm not a real emotional person. Okay, so this is practice that I've given.
Yeah.
So I'm not a real emotional person, but I thought it was odd that I cried because my brother crashed his car. So I go, well, I need to see a picture. We'll send me a picture because my dad tried to describe it, and some people are saying it's not too bad. So anyways, long story short, I thought, well, maybe it's just because I was emotional and I needed to release some crying energies of, just in general in my life. So back to this morning, I'm opening the email, and it says, oh, here's a picture or a video of my crash. And it's got the YouTube link on it. I can do this. But you know what? I'm going to do it. I click on this, and here it's showing all the traffic, and it's the video of my brother's crash is coming from a car, another driver behind him. My brother didn't have the video in his car.
Right.
It was in this other guy's who was another race car driving. So you see him starting at the first lap, or not the first lap, but the first part of the traffic. You see him going around, and Gary said in his email, he said, look in the rearview mirror of the driver that's videotaped, because the video is like behind here in the back seat, sort of, and it's going, and there's a mirror that you can see at the rearview mirror. He goes, watch there. So as I'm watching this, I'm like, oh, I don't like watching this, because there's all this traffic. And I watch NASCAR all the time, and you see all those accidents, they never bother me. So we're going around, and he's going around the track, and I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to see? When is this accident going to happen? I'm very calm, kind of thing. All of a sudden, you see in the rearview mirror, Gary passes this car that's doing the video, and Gary's now in front. Now I'm feeling a little anxious because I know this accident's going to come.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, his car hits, and I'm going to try to do this without emotion. Okay? He hits the wall like this, turning into the wall. And I start I'm like, oh my God, and I'm like,
And is it the one that tumbled? They were showing it last night on the news. Is it just tumble and tumble over and over?
no, he hit the
Okay.
wall head on and spun around, so he didn't slip.
Okay,
So
good.
I'm watching this YouTube, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Ugh," and I'm crying. And this is not like a crying of just something that happened. And I'm saying out loud in my hotel room, I'm saying, this has happened before. This has happened before. And I am just like to the point of like hyperventilating and crying and sobbing and this whole thing. And I'm shaking. And I go, this has happened before. And it was the impact on that wall. And I am
Wow.
just like crying out loud in my hotel room and shaking and saying this. It was the wildest experience. So doesn't the phone ring while I am carrying on like this? And I was just starting to come down. And I could have given myself suggestions, without
Certainly.
this. And I thought it was my mom, and because it showed the display, and it was my father. And I am crying and bawling. If you pick the phone up and someone is
Yeah.
and he goes, what's the matter, Cindy? What's the matter? I go, Dad, I'm fine. I'm fine. This has happened before. This is a past life. And Dad, he just couldn't understand. He said later he was ready to call the police. Because he goes, where are you? I'm in my hotel room, Dad. I am fine. I just watched Gary's crash, and this has happened before. So it was like, and I said, Dad, I said, don't worry about it. This is past life stuff. Don't worry. It's all
Yeah.
under control,
Yeah.
And so I have no idea what happened, and I hope because of whatever this new energy is, I hope it's not in the future, but I do need to get answers to that.
Wow. Now, what does this have to do with Seth? Does Seth enter into this?
Well, Seth had, I think I was writing this morning. I was writing with the lights out and just doing some
Right.
writing. And then when the lights came on, I turned the lights on and I started writing. And what I wrote, and I just felt the word Seth and maybe
Yeah.
it was from this. And it says, this book, it says, I am not of this world. The past has no significance. I work with the future, and I see and I feel. And I feel. The energies are changing, and they are deep. Everything will be all new to you, for it is deep. It is deep. And so I wrote that down, and then it was just coincidental that I went into my email because
Okay.
my husband,
Okay.
and then I...
Because he'd sent a text. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just...
Wow.
Well, Gary had said in the email, look at the...
When you're watching the video.
Yeah. Now, what is so wild that I realized, my father calling me, this was a little after 8 o'clock in the morning, Dad called. And the reason why I feel the purpose of that phone call was because I was in the middle of this.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was because he's my witness to this. He's my witness to this. Because I could literally, afterwards, as I'm getting dressed and everything,
Yeah.
thinking, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is it was my witness. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Are you really quite connected so that he would feel your emotional upset to that degree that he'd call?
My dad.
Yeah.
Well, we have. He was calling because he didn't want me to call my mom because my mom's in the middle of her half sister passing with Down syndrome and Alzheimer's. So the reason for his call was because I said I would call mom in the morning.
Oh.
And he wanted to make
He
sure
wanted
that
to,
also that
sure.
I didn't call mom.
Sure.
She's got too much she's handling right now.
Yeah.
So that was the reason. But he called at that precise moment that I was in this. And he said he was so scared. Because he really was almost scared to hear about Alice.
Oh.
So it was just wild. But he was my witness.
What?
And I'm sort of feeling like, I don't know. And I'm feeling like a widow. A widow. So I'm wondering if my brother was in my brother in this life maybe was a husband, because when I got out of the car and stuff, I'm just feeling this sensation of like loss.
The aftermath you experienced before.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that this thing isn't the future, because I got to tell you some things that Gary, and I think it's all funny of what we say in life to each other and how
Yes.
it's linked either to our past, and the reason why we say that, because quite a few years ago, my brother had said, joking, it's a big joke, it's like, how you don't want to get old, so, you want to punch your ticket early.
Yeah.
And so my brother being a race car, he said he would get like I just want to go hit a wall. He didn't mean on a racetrack, he just meant he would just go and hit a wall and die.
Before he got old.
Before he got old, and so we joked and said, well, we need a band, because we all want to be there and with you, so this, kind of thing. So it's like, oh, this wall hitting thing. So I got to explore it to see if it's the future, but I'm just feeling.
It doesn't sound like the future.
You don't think so?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
But what is funny?
But what do you feel generated the new energies?
I have been manifesting the new energies.
Yeah.
In reading we did 2 nights ago, or past life we did 2 nights ago. It's like my Reiki energies. I'm going to be working with higher vibrational energies, so it'll be higher than Reiki. And I have been manifesting those higher energies because I work very hard.
Mm-hmm.
People are getting 10 hour and a half, 2 hours, and I can only do 5 people in a day, so how much money can you make? And,
Right.
so all this, so
Right.
I need to work differently, and so I think that's why the higher energies are coming in, so that I don't have to work so hard.
I see. Yeah. Well, so how will they manifest? In more money? In
My gift, talent.
your abilities to do 8 people a day, or?
No, it's the duration of time that I spend with people is really crucial.
Okay. Good.
Which sort of, huh?
Concentrated. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
you don't have to, and I think what Kathleen said last night when we did a past life with her, and we talked about just who spirit guide of Jesus was
Right.
talking to her and said, healing can be instantaneously. It doesn't have to be covered.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where, because I'm one of those people is I can take something simple and make it complicated kind of thing, because I put so much detail and care into it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how it comes back to my thinking. So it's just, and I even told you yesterday morning that the energies are coming, a part of them are coming back. So I don't know what's happening.
Good.
But it's
Well, we got to explore that maybe here.
yeah, but for me to have that physical reaction with that,
I just want to make one last thing.
I did one. You want to play like that? So,
That's all right. Do it. Who else going to Saturday night? Okay, you already have your tickets, everybody? Okay. So you've collected, Cindy? You? Okay. Yes. Yes. Oh, I wouldn't miss this. Oh, I love to find out about new healers just for clients that are in desperate need, and to be able to say, hey, come on, I really believe that you could be helped here, or you could be helped with this methodology. Yeah, and I think you all want to do exactly the same thing, because, unless you're a tremendous healer, you're going to have people coming with all sorts of problems, and if you can refer them to somebody good. Yeah. I'm probably a little over the top on referring people for ozone therapy, but I am so convinced that is just an incredible answer that I'm referring an awful lot of people. Ozone. Yeah. Yeah, I get injectable ozone right into my vein about once a month, just whether I need it or not. And if you get about 12 shots of ozone, even will supposedly end AIDS. It just solves so many physical problems. And they're trying to suppress it here because, ozone works, it's inexpensive and it works fast. And in Europe, they use it, they carry it on every ambulance so that they can go ahead and use it, because they have socialized medicine and they don't want you to stick around in the hospitals, where here, that's how they make their money. So, yeah, some states, Ohio is one of the states, because I was checking it out for Carol. But several states you can get it in California, but it's difficult. I get it underground. You know, the guy is a tremendous health practitioner, but I don't want to go down into town, and he gives me a great deal, and the whole family. And no, I wouldn't be using it for the same things maybe that, well, certainly heart disease, yes, but which would be why you'd be using chelation. But my son, Hunter, we had tried because he had alopecia areata, you know, where you lose all the hair on your whole body. And we tried everything, the best healers. I mean, you know, Patty and Fatima and so on. And we went to UCLA, the very latest techniques, and nothing worked. And we tried the ozone, and now he's got, it's not thick, but he's got hair all over his head. And that's the only thing that worked. And I've got friends now who have tried it and willing to trust it, and boy, it's been some miraculous cure. Well, I've got a deal where I work with him for $100 a shot, but I think in Ohio it costs around $150 if you go into the clinic. Yes. Hmm?
We use it freely.
In Mexico? Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah. And they sent me the MRI, what I take a lot of MRI before we started.
Yeah.
I spent about 60,000 patients on those things.
Mm-hmm.
They put it all up and down my back.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 4 or 5 like this, and the spine and all that.
Yes, sir.
And also, they put it in a sweat box. Put the ozone right in the sweat box.
Yeah, yeah.
And I did that a few trips, but it burnt me around the neck because I got a power.
Is that like a hyper, what do you call it, hyper chamber?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. This is set in.
Because the chamber, well, it has about 1/20th the power of the injection. Oh, yeah.
They put it in the steam
Mm-hmm.
injection.
Mm-hmm.
And it burnt my neck real bad, but they put a power in there to keep it going out.
Sure.
So the stink is got a real weird smell.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it does.
And, but I spent 50,000, 60,000 pesos on it. And,
How did you feel it helped you? Did it help you or did not?
I'm running around like a damn teenager.
Just run like a teenager.
Going down and programming my mind.
Yeah.
And I have a dozen other things that I'm doing.
Yeah. Good.
86 years, almost 76, tell me that's not normal.
No, I know.
Especially if you've had 2 major accidents.
Yeah. Well, they carry it, I guess, in the ambulances in France and so on, but what it is that a virus cannot live like the AIDS virus or any of the other viruses or parasites. I got a friend who's got parasites, and I'm trying to talk her into going and getting the ozone, but they cannot live in an over-oxygenated environment. And so it will kill all these parasites and all these viruses. It just simply kills them right now in a very few treatments.
Well, like I wrote today, if you don't want to be injected and pay $150, but just 1 cent a day, you might use hydrogen peroxide. And that's what I've used, and it's helping a lot. It's the same thing. Hydrogen peroxide.
Peroxide?
Peroxide. It's 2 atoms.
Hydrogen peroxide?
H2O2.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to take that internally.
Yes, you do. You drink it.
Actually, a vet said give it to your dog to make it to his vomit.
If what?
Hydrogen peroxide, a vet will tell you to give them some to reduce vomiting in a pet.
Yeah.
No, that's not for vomiting. That's for oxygen.
I know, I was just relating it to the use of it. I ingest it.
The book on,
Hydrogen peroxide.
I'm sorry, I did.
You asked me how to use it, and I told you. and you said
Oh, sweetie, I get, you got to understand, I get like 50 things a week from people. I don't, we got to talk, we'll talk at break.
Oh, no, I'll explain the rest.
All right. Yeah, you can buy a machine that you can put ozone into water. Well, the machine is not necessarily dangerous. I mean, I'm seeing that. Tara will even stick it in her ear. She's getting a cold, she sticks it in her ear.
Well, it's
And,
illegal.
and all of a sudden, she doesn't have a problem anymore.
Yeah, but in the long run, you get huge amounts of nitrogen. And that's
You sure you get nitrogen into when you ozone affect the water?
Yeah, but the manufacturers won't tell you, of course. They want you to buy the machine.
Yeah, but it's not very expensive. It only costs $150 for the
Well,
machine.
the hydrogen peroxide costs even less.
Yeah.
And you go to a health store in the States and you can find it. It's 35% food grade hydrogen peroxide.
You mean
Make sure to
peroxide?
buy that and not any other one because none of the other ones have chemicals.
Are you talking about hydrogen peroxide? No, you didn't. But you said peroxide. It came out differently.
I said hydrogen peroxide.
Well, hydrogen peroxide.
She says it a little different.
Well, it's
Yeah.
spelled B-E-R-O.
You have to be real careful with that stuff. You can't swallow that stuff.
Yes, you have to mix it into a 3/4 of a glass with chlorine-free water or any other liquid, and you drink it 3 times a day. 35 drops. 25 drops. But if you just want it for maintenance, it's 3 drops. I can send you the book if you
How
want.
do you barrels of that thin hair?
No, those are chemicals. The one.
We gotten way off track here somehow. I was going to talk about soulmates.
Soulmate, food grade it's called. They
Well,
put it in food.
It's for food? Okay.
I have people believe it.
Who said that? I have a feeling you would be so attracted that that might be the result anyway, you know. But,
And I had
Wow.
inflammation in both wrists and one leg. Nothing that I have tried and had
are we on hydrogen again?
And it instead of, and my colds, instead of lasting for 2 weeks, they only last for 2 days.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay. Okay. Now we're changing the subject now. We are going to soulmates. All right. Do you believe that, Susan?
No, because I believe soulmates want to be very
Yeah, I do too. I do too. But if you had the twin flame kind of a soulmate, that maybe there's a lot stronger pull. But when people ask me about it, I say a soulmate would be any relationship that was destined to be. And you probably have a history. But this is, again, now you guys may have a total understanding of soulmates, I don't know, but you are going to get clients wanting to explore, when am I going to meet my soulmate? My God, that is one of the biggest questions that people make an appointment, come in and ask, and they'll turn to spiritual hypnosis because, you know, you're accepting that obviously if you're doing spiritual hypnosis work, obviously you are accepting of the idea of soulmates. And so I believe you will probably get a lot of people. And boy, I've been gathering research on it forever, and I've written 3 books that are really just about this idea about soulmates, yeah. One of them's out of print now, and I'd like to see it come back in, but it's called Predestined Love, and Simon Schuster did it. And of course, You Are Born Again to Be Together is basically about soulmates. So I'm just going to share some ideas about this, and especially some material from Predestined Love that it talks about and this is my opinion based upon a lot of time, a lot of delving into it. But I believe that there are 3 different types of soulmates. And that a couple of these types can be structured in probably 3 different ways. So the first type of soulmate would be karmic. These are my terms, but I call it karmic companions. And this is when 2 people are destined to form a union to confront, maybe confront is not the right word, but unlearned lessons from the past. In other words, a conflict is basically destined. Over time, they will probably come up against a conflict to see if they've learned to handle it. I mean, it would really be a test, self-test, to see if the 2 people had learned to let go of fear and whether they had learned to respond unconditionally, which would be, again, to accept others without judgment or blame or trying to control and so on. Now, I have worked with this so much. Boy, there was a time when I didn't do anything else but. And I think you can structure this in the 3 different ways. 1, the relationship can be locked in. In other words, the players must remain together. An example of that would be B.J. Thomas, who, he's famous for Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head and a lot of other New York Minute and a lot of other really good songs. And B.J. and his wife Gloria are good friends and have been for years and years and years. And they absolutely have a locked-in thing. There were times when both of them wanted out, when they wanted to get a divorce. They should have gotten a divorce. Anybody else would have gotten a divorce. And they just were seemingly locked in. They could not part. And so they worked things out. And then things got better. And now, B.J. and Gloria are a lot older, and boy, I know they're glad they stuck together because they are an incredible team. And that's a perfect example of that. Now, the next way that the karmic companions could be structured would be open-ended. In other words, the outcome of the relationship depends upon the growth of the partners. So if love has matured, they're going to remain together. But if stagnation results and basically they're blocking the potential of further growth, a parting is assured. And we're seeing so much parting right now. You're going to be dealing with people who they're parting with their mates. They are, in other words, they don't seem to be able to remain together in this intense vibration if they're not matched. And so they will part, and they're coming together with, hopefully, with people of a matching vibrational rate. And there's people who have written some really good books about this. Gary Zukav, I really like Gary's writing, his books. And if you want to read about Gary's ideas, bless you, Gary's ideas, he talks in terms of, he feels the regular relationships are ending. Just huge amounts of regular, old-fashioned man-woman relationships are ending, and a new form of spiritual partner is coming in. And the best book about this that Gary's written is called Soul Stories. Soul Stories. I advise everybody to read it. Zukov, Z-U-K-O, what, Zukov? I don't know. If you just look up Soul Stories on Amazon, you'll see. But he's written some good books. He was on Oprah for quite a while because he wrote a book about something to do with the soul, and it's just incredible. His biggest seller was that first book about the soul. All right, then the other way that it seems a relationship is can be structured, a karmic companion relationship can be structured, is that it's destined to end. And it's going to end for the growth opportunity the ending is going to provide. In other words, can two people let go without excessive hostility? If not, then they're certainly going to come back together again in the future. And they'll get another chance to do it right, and another chance to do it right. Now, these three karmically structured ways also applies to what I would call dharmic bond, soulmates. And this is where the couple shares a goal. And everything we said about karmic companions would apply. But the couple is coming together really to accomplish a joint task. And when that task or that shared goal is launched or established or complete, then the couple will have fulfilled their duty to themselves and to each other, and maybe society. And the future is going to depend upon how they have basically structured the relationship in the first place. And so all three of those ways would apply. And maybe a couple has come together only to have a child. There's something that says they need to come together to have that child. And yet, they're the most mismatched pair. And you say, well, why? And yet that was needed. There was an energy between them. But the parting, they are destined, or they seem to be destined to part as well. But I suppose, they could be locked in or open-ended as well. Maybe they came together to launch a business. I was married to Trina at the time I wrote You Were Born Again to Be Together. I feel that we really came together, to have a kid, great kid by the way, and also to really launch a publishing venture and writing, and so basically my career was launched at that same time. Now so was hers. She was incredibly psychic, but she decided once we had ended the relationship, she just turned her back on all of this, all of the talents that it would seem to me she developed. But I feel that we were dharmic bond, soulmates. And we came together for those reasons. But she turned back to art and other things that she was really good at after we parted. All right, now the third type of soulmate would be a counterpart or a twin flame. Now, twin flame is Elizabeth Clare Prophet's term. Twin flame. A twin flame soulmate would be that one, that's that man-woman, or, if they're gay, man-man, or woman-woman. But that's the soulmate where you just, you love them to death, and destiny seems to be just pulling you together. And whether it lasts forever, maybe not. I'm not sure anything lasts forever. The Soulmates book that Jess Stern wrote, most of those people are not together. They ended up parting, but most of the people in it. So, but a twin flame soulmate is that love. It's such an intense, such a passionate, you just love the other person to death. And Jess Stern, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, had her operation in Malibu for a long time. And so she was befriending Jess Stern because I think she felt it was going to do her good, and of course it probably did. And so Jess picked up the term twin flame, and he really popularized it. So when you hear that, you know what the background is, where it's coming from. But a twin flame soulmate is the people are experiencing a loving, supportive relationship. They're going to share their lives with each other without conflict. Now that doesn't mean they won't have problems any more than anybody else would have problems. They probably have a long lineage of lifetimes together. And they probably have established matching vibrational rates, it would seem to me. But they are not going to have problems with each other. They will harmonize with each other. So that is what everybody feels is the ideal. The ideal relationship to be in. But, you know, there's other aspects to this. I am always hearing people say, I want a warm, loving, sexually fulfilling, one-on-one, twin flame relationship. You're going to hear that too a lot. And that seems to be the goal of most metaphysically oriented people. And they will say, well, anybody that finds that is lucky, or they're reaping a karmic reward, and that may be true. But I notice that the people that have that kind of a relationship, and this is important, they tend to be self-actualized. They tend to be very self-actualized. And so, being objective about it, maybe it's because of their awareness that they're manifesting the soulmate relationship. Maybe they're making wise choices. Maybe the relationship started as karmic companions and dharmic bond soulmates and went on to become something more over a period of lifetimes. So the concept of self-actualization just keeps coming up. I use self-actualization more than enlightenment. I don't really... If you're still here, then basically you still have issues to work on. Enlightenment to me is an absence. I think I have said that before, but let's put it in here right now. Enlightenment is an absence. It's an absence of all the fear-based emotions. And you think about it. If you didn't have any fear-based emotions, you wouldn't have any karma, most likely, that you had to resolve. And so it's coming down to the fact that when you get to the point that you no longer have any fears, any fear-based emotions that are driving you, why, you're going to be enlightened. So I see enlightenment purely as an absence. Anybody that tells me that they are enlightened or they're almost there, they're almost enlightened, I just, you know, smile a lot. Yeah, I just smile. I don't give them the finger. I just smile. But, you know, we aren't quite that evolved here right now yet. And you know, the more people talk about the fact that they are involved, the more I doubt they are involved. And I know just about everybody in the field, and there's a lot of uninvolved people writing books and doing seminars.
Is that the same thing as, this is my last life?
Yeah, that's exactly the same thing as this is my last life, because that would have to mean that you have no more fears, no more addictions, no more obsessions, no. You're just on.
What are you going to do? I'm going to be bored.
I would think you'd be very bored. You want to sit around and play a harp all day? I don't think so. Or maybe everybody's looking forward to that 1,000 years of peace that we're going to have. It's just going to be peace and harmony, and everybody's going to get along. Now, somebody is going to get real sick of that real quick, and they're going to start trouble. It's absolutely assured.
The drama.
The drama. Yeah, people can't. This is a schoolhouse. We are down here to learn and have opportunities to grow. So, I'd love to be proved wrong, but I'd love to be proved too that you can have this kind of a and not be bored. So, yeah.
I usually ask my clients under hypnosis, what level are they on? From 1 to 7. You know, I've had many say that they're 5 or 6 or 7. Sometimes I believe them, but sometimes, boy, especially one of them, and she says she was level 7 and she didn't need to go back anymore, and that in spirit she saw everybody and the guide's laughing at her, telling her that she doesn't need hypnosis. What are you doing here? I was wondering.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
really.
Well, you're going to find a lot of delusional people in metaphysics.
I've got a statement on this 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember, man could breathe underwater one time.
Mm-hmm.
We drowned our food. So
Mm-hmm.
we went out
Mm-hmm.
of time.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe our mentality will be totally different in 1,000 years. Maybe we'll accept that.
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, I'd think so. I'd think so. But why? Then what's the excuse for being here? You know, if you're going to just lay around or play a harp, I mean,
Well,
what?
the hell you going to do out there when you leave here?
Well, I don't know. The idea is you're going to join God, and it's going to be so nice. We're just going to. Yeah, that's a lot of New Agers too.
You know, the idea is that the demons won't have any power anymore. That's the idea.
Well, yeah.
See?
And you know, for your client, you can talk about. I've often used a description, metaphorical analogy of a ladder down in a well, and the lower levels are just cold and damp and dark, and they're very undesirable. And as you keep climbing up, it gets a little bit better, a little more light, and eventually we climb out, and it's maybe an environment that just we can't even imagine. We do not know how good it could be. So, and I don't imagine it would be the mind we have today judging it. We would be very different. So, yeah, a long time ago. Yeah. 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 I do too. Oh, my goodness.
Dick,
Yeah.
can you really be delusional under hypnosis?
I don't suppose, I would never say absolutely not to anything.
So it's possible.
Sure, I would say it's possible.
But
But, the top professionals will say, well, you won't tend to lie under hypnosis. You would tend to tell the truth.
or what you believe it is.
Well, or what you're perceiving is coming from somewhere, and it is on some level real, for sure. So,
Another thing, you were talking about twin soul.
Mhm.
I always ask my clients that too. Who is your twin soul? Are they incarnated? Are they here? Do you know them? And in more than 50% of the cases, it's not a romantic relationship. It's their mother, or their father, or their daughter, or a very good friend.
Mhm.
It's romantic.
I wouldn't argue with that. But mostly it's going to be a man-woman, or man-man, woman-woman. It's going to be a relation, a primary. And it's through that. Charlotte Jocko Beck is a teacher at the Zen Center in San Diego. She said, there has never been a relationship that worked. That's not what they're about. They are about learning. And so the moment you have a relationship and have responsibilities to each other and sex is involved, boy, you've got this really interesting mix from which you will grow. And she says, we're talking about trying to resolve these things for people and so on, and she says, nah. She says, we wear it out. That's how we get it. That's how we get through. We just bitch and moan and groan and gripe and confront and hassle, and we finally get that, this is just not work, and then we kind of wear it out, and as a result, we learn a lot of lessons. And I like the grounded aspects of Zen, so. Well, a twin soul would be no conflict between, most relationships are not a twin soul soulmate relationship.
According to my clients, that some of them have been full of conflict. And my
Well, sure,
relationship
certainly.
with my twin soul was full
Certainly.
of conflict. Well, we're constantly at each other's throats. So
Right, right.
it's not always.
But but you can be married to someone, you can have a lover, you can have somebody else in your life that you just adore. It feels like, boy, it's maybe a twin flame, but I contend if you're having those kind of conflicts, it probably isn't. Oh my. Well, that's going to create conflicts, I would imagine. Yeah, you let it, yeah. Well, when you have someone coming to you and you are interested, they are interested in a soulmate relationship, and the best thing that you can do, what I do with them anyway, is that first of all, I'll ask them a series of 5 questions. And one of the best questions, now you can use this question in many ways, and I may have talked about it before, but in other words, is there a hidden payoff in remaining single? Now, explore this by considering, well, what I ask them is I will say, if you get what you want, if you find a soulmate relationship, well, a lot of things are going to change in your life, a whole lot. Now, what are the changes that you are not going to like? And the hidden payoff is going to be found in their answers. And you will be just amazed at some of the things that people will tell you, because they will just come up with a whole laundry list of what they won't like. And I had a woman here a while back, and she said, well, I sure as hell am not going to have football playing in my living room on the weekend, I can tell you that. And I'm not too fond of any sports, so I don't really, I don't know if I could tolerate a man who is going to have sports on the weekend on the TV. And she said, and he would have to wash his own clothes, because the idea of washing a man's clothes, I don't think it should be that way. I don't think he should expect a woman to be washing his clothes. And I have kind of a unique set of friends. I don't know how he's going to fit in with those friends, and I don't know if I'd like his friends, so there might be a little bit of a conflict on that. And when it comes to cooking, it has to be even. He has to cook. I just am not cooking for a man. And it just went like that. She had several more things when it came to taking out the garbage and cleaning the house and boom, boom, boom. And I said, gee, I wonder why you don't have a relationship. Hidden payoff. What's the other word? The NGH uses another word. I don't remember. I've used hidden payoff for so long. So you can ask just a series, tell me the changes. You can do it on anything with a client. If you get the job that you really want, you say that, you really want it. A lot of things are going to change. What are the changes you will not like? And that uncovers just automatically the hidden payoffs. And yeah, you sure can. And then, you know, I like to generate at least a real short discussion on do you know how to give? You know, I know a lot of people I've come in contact with over the years where they're takers. They are me type of people. And they will talk endlessly about themselves without showing any real interest in others. So giving is going to be a matter of showing respect and making a relationship basically work. And you'll spot those people real quick. Hmm? Yeah, I know. And many years. Yeah, no, but within a year you've established patterns and yeah. Sure. Yeah. And when you get in with somebody else, you've... Sure. Yeah, exactly. Third question I ask is, are you realistic? You know, are you realistic? I had a client who was 43 years old and she was constantly complaining about not dating. But she was only attracted to men in their late 20s and early 30s. And so that wasn't really working out. And there's nothing wrong. She's 43, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, the older woman, younger man scenario. But basically, you know, it's certainly going to reduce your odds. And I remember that she had asked a guy who was about 12 years older than her. He had asked her out, and he was a nice-looking, successful man, and she was just so offended that a man that old would ask her out.
I'm a bit like it.
Yeah, well, there it is. But, you know, you're not being realistic, or you are reducing your odds a great deal. Yeah, well, but some people just see, well, why aren't I coming up with a soulmate? And they've reduced their odds so far that they're not going to. Yeah. Woo. Woo.
But she said this, and her friend said, I mean, they're just like, yeah.
That's not
What
fair.
do you mean?
So many older men are married to younger women. It's not fair. Women should have the same opportunity.
So we don't kind of know how young bodies are married.
Well, it's true, but if the lady wanted a younger man, his projection is older than
So, well, that's what she wants. Why should the older men be entitled to be with younger women? And
Nobody's entitled. It's not. When you came here, you didn't get a guarantee of fare.
No, but I'm
That
just
was
saying,
not part of the
you
deal.
have to look how things are.
Yeah, and you certainly have a right to do for what you want, and I don't see any problem with that. But you have to realize that it probably does reduce the odds.
Oh, I do realize that.
Yeah. I love that when you stop messing with the boys. Yeah.
Question that something just, I wanted to ask you. What do you do when under hypnosis a client comes out with a moralistic judgment? I try not to fight and just go to the next question, but there's a problem with it. For instance,
Right, sure
one of
is.
my clients was talking about her sister and why her sister hasn't been happy in her life.
Mm.
The reason was because she wanted to marry a handsome man, and handsome men don't make you happy.
Well, you know,
It's
she's,
not true. It just
well, she just has, you know, accepted that idea, and it's self-limiting. But, you know, well, I'm not going to argue with my client. I don't.
You know we wrote a song?
I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Who sang it?
Oh, gosh. You want to make it you're happy for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but was she picking that up from spirit or from her own judgmental thinking?
Well, it's the judgment.
It is, right?
Well, sure, your client. You mean you were talking about your client? Well, it's just, you know, people get stuck. There are a lot of people who are black and whiters. You know, everything is all black or everything is all white. Life is not like that. It's mostly, almost always shades of gray. But you run into one of those people and it can all be explained like this. And life can't be explained like that. I'm sorry. So,
You just let it
all
go.
right.
You just let that go.
Well, I would certainly want to talk to them afterwards, and I'd say, where do you get this idea? And they may, you know, so you can toss it around, but I don't get in an argument with them. Not even after the hypnosis. An argument is nobody's going to win that. You can inject ideas, and you can try to share wisdom. Say, you know, maybe you should listen to your heart. You know, it's going to be your heart that's going to tell you this, not a judgment of whether the guy has got, you know, blonde curly hair. You know, that's just... I ask people too if they are open to trust. Now, this doesn't last a long time, but when somebody is really interested in the soulmate, perhaps we can get down to it early on. Trust is the opposite of control. And
Is that the fourth?
yeah, that's number 4. Are you open to trust? Trust is the basis of a good relationship. You trust your mate. You're not being possessive and jealous and wondering that they're doing what they're doing when they're away from you. That is going to destroy any relationship. And so, are you open to trust? We can talk a little bit more about that later, but it would be the opposite of control. And number 5, are you doing something about it? In other words, you want a soulmate, and you're not doing a damn thing about it. I just worked with a woman in New York on this subject, and she was bound determined that, now she lives with her 97-year-old mother. This is a true story. And in a fairly small apartment. And she's looking for the soulmate to come in and save her. And live, of course, maybe with her 97-year-old mother and her. And yeah. And she is wondering why this soulmate is not showing up. And oh my goodness, I mean, you know, I made her a CD, I did all these things, but I tried to inject some reality into it. Guess what? You know, until Mama kicks the bucket, I don't think there's going to be a lot of things happening in this one. But are you willing to do something about it? Now, what are you doing? What are you doing? I kept asking her, what are you doing? What can you do? And I like to dance. I take dancing classes, but you don't meet many men in the dancing class. And those good dancers are not necessarily a good, you know, soulmate potential. And so everything I bring up, I would argue, she would argue about. And I said, well, the Village Voice is one hell of a newspaper, and it's got a lot. If you don't want to go to the web, and she didn't want to go to the web. She did not want to go to Match.com or any of those things.
Why not?
I said, well, a lot of people don't like the computer. They don't feel they're good enough on the computer, and they just don't like meeting someone that way. So in the section she was living in New York, it'd certainly be easy access to the Village, and that newspaper would have countless different, they would talk in there about all the activities that are available in Lower Manhattan. And so go do things, go to things, go find, become involved in activities where you meet someone naturally. But don't stay home with a 97-year-old mother thinking a guy's going to come to the door, because it's not going to happen that way. The only person I ever known were their soulmates, so to speak, time will tell, is my daughter Cheyenne, and the guy she fell in love with crawled in the window. Came right into her window. And it was because he was a friend of Hunter's and my son, and the way they used to get in and out of the house when it became late at night, and you'd bitch about them slamming the doors and coming in the front door, was they crawl in the window. And so Cheyenne saw, Benasia climb in the window, and she's been with him ever since. But that don't happen very often. So what are you willing to do about it? And hopefully they can give you a whole list of things that they are doing. But almost, I've never had someone come back like that. They're just not doing anything to try to find a soulmate. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I can't take the time to do that. Or I don't like going off to those. Yeah, you're probably too busy for a relationship right there. Everything's karma. So your current situations, your current circumstances are the result of your attitudes and actions or inactions in the past. But the point of power is right now, so you can change that. I might add a sixth point to this in just saying, I always ask people if they're really willing to commit. Commitment is the essence of love. And so if somebody really wants a soulmate relationship, are they willing to totally commit every way? Mentally, physically, financially, in every way to that other person.
So after you've asked all these questions, where do you go from there? Because obviously it's brought awareness to them.
Yes. Yeah.
Where they're not really ready for this one. What do you do?
Well, you're going to try to figure out what else, number one, what else can you do? And let's say, maybe, you can become pretty good at this. Maybe they say to you, I would like to have a wealthy man. And I say, well, is that your first criteria, somebody who's wealthy? I can't imagine, but the answer is oftentimes yes. Well, I was telling them, well, why don't you find out all the public companies in your area. Now, in New York, of course, it'd be limitless. But there are public companies in every major city. Why don't you buy just one share of stock in all the public companies? Now, you are a stockholder, no matter how little stock you have. And you are going to be invited to the stockholders' meetings. And so you go to the stockholders' meetings, all these companies in your area, and you've increased the odds. These are at least people attending who are interested in money and investing, and they own stock. And so, yeah, so.
Maybe their soulmate is broke.
And your soulmate may be broke, but if you want somebody that has a lot of money,
Then you don't want your soulmate.
yeah, then you're going to miss. You're going to miss them. Yeah. So you can bring things out like that and shake them up. You know, so Just do it. Just do it. The more you can shake them up, the better. And so you are saying, well, all right, now I can make you a CD. I can program you in here today that you are now open to finding love. You are open and receptive to a soulmate relationship. I don't think most of the people who say they want it are really open and receptive to it. So, and then you can really start looking at the fears. And you know, people are hurt in relationships. They have a history of being hurt in the past. And so you may want to go back to the cause. I usually do. Go back to the cause of why they are so fearful. And, you know, being in love can be very, very painful. And so you want to look at what it is. Maybe they've been rejected before, and so, boy, they are scared to death of being rejected again. Maybe somebody left them. Maybe somebody cheated on them. Maybe somebody... And what you do then, you know, somebody cheated on you. Well, let's go back in time a little ways and find out what you did in the past that caused them to cheat on you. We have this wonderful tool with regressive hypnosis. We can go back and find out all these things. So you go back and you find out, oh my God, you were a traveling salesman and you were betting a woman in every town and...
Dick, stop talking about it.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how tame I am. Damn.
Just a few on the road.
No, boy, I tell you, when I'm involved in a relationship, I don't. I do not. I know, I'm glad. We have just this wonderful tool because we can just play with, well, why did you do this? What did you do to create this anxiety around having a relationship? And the ultimate step is you seem to have blocked it in your astrology chart. Boy, I'll sometimes say, why don't you go and look? Have a good astrologer do your chart and tell her you are primarily interested, or him, you are primarily interested in finding a warm, loving soulmate relationship. Look at my chart. Tell me about this. And the astrologer is very likely going to, you know, you're not going to find many charts where it is blocked. But that does exist, and a real good astrologer can find that. And as I think I mentioned before, I have one son who just is always wanting a warm, loving relationship and has never, even though he's in his early 40s, he has never found it. And I could say, well, it's because of the decisions that he makes. He is in love with somebody that will not commit to a relationship with him. So he'd rather hang out with her as a friend than give that up and focus upon finding somebody that they could have a marital relationship with, or that it would end up in a marital relationship. So his whole life.
20 years, 40 years?
Well, he's early 40s now.
30 years?
Well, yeah. I mean,
You met her when he was 10?
oh, no. How many years has he been interested in her?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. It's maybe 10, 15 years.
Well, there's still a chance of that.
Oh, sure, certainly. But according to his chart, there isn't.
No,
That he purposely blocked the actual relationship. In other words, it's in his astrology chart. He did not want to, because of something that happened in the past, he did not want to come in with that. We have to be real careful about saying, I will never have another relationship again. I hate relationships. I am never, ever, ever coming back. And will I have a relationship? You know, I don't even want to say that in jest, you know.
But maybe it's...
Cancel. Yeah, I didn't, you know, that was just as an example, guys.
Maybe he's balancing his karma. That's what I
Mm?
But can't your son feel, or can't he feel that part?
I would
know
feel he
it's in the
could.
chart, but you said the chart is flexible because it's that percentage of free will, if I'm
Yes.
putting it all together,
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yes.
So it is something that could be held if you chose to do it.
I would think so. Just like, you know, but that's an interesting question. And you're going to hear that question asked a lot in regard to your soul contracts or your soul agreements. Can you rewrite your soul agreement? Now, we didn't get to that yesterday when we were talking about this, and that's one of the things, if we got time at the end, will it be interesting to go in and explore.
Courageous soul? No. Because there's something in that.
Yeah.
It's something.
But I don't know. I mean, I really don't know if we can rewrite our soul agreements or our soul contracts or not.
Well, according to that book, if something unexpected happens, then you adjust it.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of adjust your soul agreement.
Yeah.
And have-
Yeah. So, Cindy? Yeah. Okay. All right. So, anyway, a little, I'm not going to do this as a process. In fact, if you are willing, you know, I'd love to just give this page to everyone. And I meant to copy it before. I copied some things I'll give out, but I didn't copy this. And I'll just go over this. Oh, really? Okay, good, 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 good. I have the copy right here, the same thing. Thank you, Cindy, very much. Mhm, mhm. Yes.
But even around here, and people are visiting, people, our friends and stuff, they are older and single.
They're older and single, yeah.
I think also the main concern is, when you get 70, 80, and who's going to be here?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be with me
Mhm.
when I'm alone? Or
Yeah. That's their main concern. Yeah, it's an interesting concern.
who's famous home?
Yeah.
Family guy.
Right. No, I know. I know. Yeah. I kind of, I envy all the people, not really envy, but I see the certain races in particular seem to honor, you know, the Japanese people would tend to, and even the Mexican people are so family oriented. You know, you just see the wife and tons of kids and everything, and the old folks right there with them, and
But that comes with a lot of responsibility.
yeah,
I would want that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Nick, there is no welfare system, so they've got plans and rely on the family.
They got to do that.
Until they bond.
Do you
better than
feel?
we do.
Do they feel it's a natural way of being for?
Natural way.
Yeah, I love that about the Mexican people. Yeah,
That's one of the reasons I love those people.
yeah, I do too. I do too.
Because they bond and they're more love in that family
Oh.
than most of us.
And they will be tremendously loyal.
And here's a point that I want to make really strong.
Yeah,
In a rural area, you'll find houses with no floor,
Mm.
just dirt.
I know very well.
Old dirty curtains on the wall.
Yeah,
5 or 6 kids, of course, have given their money to the Catholic Church
yep.
when they don't have enough to eat.
And they're, yeah, I know.
And if you eat with those suckers, you're going to eat first. They ain't
Yeah,
nothing, but you're
yeah,
gonna-
yeah,
You're
yeah.
going to eat it first. Now, if
Yeah.
most of us had to live like that, we'd find a pistol and blow our fucking brains.
I know, I know. Well, this was in the front page of the LA Times, and I often do it as a process. And thank you very much, Cindy. And it can be a powerful process that you do with your client, because what the LA Times said, and this was all the mental health professionals were polled until questioned as to what were the primary reasons that relationships ended. And they, the sum total of all these hundreds and hundreds of people who participated, who are professional therapists, they said 4 primary reasons: criticism, contempt, being defensive, and withdrawal. And if you read the book Blink, it talked a great deal about a man in there who was able to predict whether a relationship was going to end or not. And the primary thing that he was working with, and he could supposedly do it in about 5 minutes of interviewing a couple. And he was the primary thing, bless you, he was looking for was any expression of contempt. And so when he's asking the questions, let's say the wife just rolls her eyes. Well, that to him, even if it's new and they're in love and they're just going fantastic, she was expressing with that eye roll contempt. And he could say, this relationship will not last. And his accuracy is just evidently unbelievable, how accurate he is. But these 4 things, if your client says, this is going on, chances are that you are going to be dealing with damage control more than with trying to save a relationship. I will try to, anything that you can do to save a relationship, if they're coming to me, I'd say, boy, do whatever you can do to save it. But I always ask counselors, professional counselors, friends who are counselors, how much, if they specialize in this area, how much of your work is damage control? And they say most of it. When a couple comes to the point where where these sorts of expressions are going on, they're ready to go. And they're just looking for an excuse. And so you are trying to help them, and I would be trying to help them to karmically end it in a way that is not going to cause it to drag on and on and on. Because if it ends with anger and hostility, unless you can let go of all that, unless you can say, boy, to that mate, that ex-mate, go with God. I love you, I forgive you, I hope you'll forgive me, but go with God and really mean it, then you will end up back together again. That's the main thing that I see about relationships by regressing people and regressing people and regressing people. They just come back again and again and again until they get it right. So, in fact, right now, my friend Shauna Hoffman, who's a tremendous therapist, God, I asked her, she was on my radio show just a short time back, and she's a close personal friend. And I said, well, how much, what part of your relationships practice, what part of your therapy practice is now, counseling people who seem to be ending the relationship? And she said, every case I am currently dealing with, they are in some degree of parting. And she said, I'm thinking about going into it just out front. I'm advertising that I'm a specialist in parting. And because there are so many relationships. Now, I think that's due to the fact that the vibrations are just increasing. Now, we know this scientifically. The vibrations of the earth are increasing. And so, in that sort of an environment, is everyone trying to come together with someone of matching vibrational rate? Are they going to feel more safe and secure? Or are they simply, as Gary Zukav says, they're not willing to go by the old paradigm. They are no longer willing to be in a situation of negativity. They are no longer willing to work their asses off just to have a bigger house and a really neat car. They are now looking for the authentic aspects of marriage and relationship, and that is in trusting each other and loving each other and supporting each other. And I hope you get that book because it's really good. He says, he calls them spiritual partners, and that we're moving toward this. So this is a good time to take a break. I'm going to do a session. I'd like you to, I know that most everyone, all the well, you're not, and I'm really kind of not. But the rest of you are in a relationship, and it's real nice. But we'll do the process just so you have it under your belt and you realize a good technique. Soulmates, like when I do the soulmates process at the NGH, the National Guild of Hypnosis, I will have a really big group of people wanting to attend it for themselves, not so much as to learn how to do the techniques. I was amazed at how many people came to the last session where I did a soulmate seminar. Anyway.
So we'll do something.
Yeah, I'm going to